Hello, Patriots. I'm Lee Watts, and this is Patriot Point, your source for Kentucky news and analysis from a conservative, Christian, and common sense point of view. Well, this week we'll be looking at four major crises or opportunities facing Kentucky, and these are not getting the attention that they really deserve and need in the mainstream media, and I'm not surprised on that, and I doubt anybody watching Patriot Point's really surprised that the mainstream media is not doing what they should.
Darn tootin'.
It's the reason they keep losing all their viewers. Let's look at some of these major things facing Kentucky that are going to require some tough decisions. First of all, first crisis is who makes the law in Kentucky? Now, you might think, well, the state legislature makes the law. Well, hence the crisis. The Kentucky state legislature in the past few years, this year included, has passed laws saying Kentucky is getting out of this woke leftist DEI business. We don't want all this woke stuff taught at our colleges and our universities and our schools. Well, that's great. Good for them. I'm glad they did that. Here's the crisis. Kentucky universities are thumbing their nose at the law and completely ignoring the state legislature. If they're allowed to get away with that, that becomes a major crisis because then we have laws are just for show and there's no consequences. Unless there is teeth to the law, it is of no effect. Here's the problem. They said you can't have drag shows and do all this sex change on kids. Well, notice what WKU is doing, Western Kentucky University, this month. They had their 10th annual drag show. You'll see a picture here of a 4-year-old giving money to the drag queen at this drag show. This is supposed to be illegal 2 or 3 times over. Also, we're supposed to get rid of all this DEI stuff at the university. However, in a publication from Western Kentucky University, which I have linked in the description of this video, they said they're not getting rid of their DEI programs or officers. They're just changing it to a new acronym, which is AOC. I think it's kind of interesting and ironic that this dumb program now has the same initials as somebody else who's not that bright. Yes, AOC, the Action and Opportunity Committee, is literally just the renaming of the DEI, and they put that out there publicly. They're supposed to get rid of it. So they're doing drag shows, having little children there, keeping the DEI programs. What's going to be the consequences for violating the law? Let's look at another example of this. The University of Louisville. There was this doctor who was a professor over there, and he spoke at a non-university event as an expert in his field, not as a U of L professor, as a doctor who's an expert in his field, saying that when you do sex change on children, there's all kinds of negative implications and complications because of this, all these repercussions. Well, they in effect wound up firing him for sharing his expert opinion, which didn't agree with their policy. He took him to court, and he wound up winning this month $1.6 million that U of L now has to pay him because they fired this conservative for using his expertise in a speech. Now, here's the problem. We fund U of L. They're subsidized by the state. And so we're having to pay out $1.6 million for them doing these type of things. This is a major problem. Give you one more example. It's over at the University of Kentucky in Lexington. The trouble is the state legislature said, you're not allowed to do sex change surgeries on little children and give them these hormone therapies. However, the University of Kentucky has thumbed their nose at the state legislature and the law. Just last month, on March the 31st, UK employee was caught on tape. And in the recording, they're saying how they will give a 15-year-old, they're talking about hormone therapy, which is illegal, and they, quote, have a facility that does the surgeries, end quote. Talking about a sex change surgery for this minor, a 15-year-old. Both of these things are against the law. We have seen this as being violated by WKU, by U of L, by UK. What's the legislature going to do about it? This is either going to be a crisis of laws actually having any consequences, or is an opportunity for the legislative branch to say, no, the law will be enforced and there will be consequences. Along with that, we had just last month, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear not obeying the law. Again, I am not surprised. He had the audacity, in fact, to send the legislature a letter saying, I'm not going to enforce this law. They passed a law that says you cannot use state taxpayer money to pay for sex change surgeries for prisoners and other people. Andy Beshear, he says, nope, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm not enforcing that law. However, there's another problem, and that's Section 81 of the Kentucky Constitution, which says, he, the governor, shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. It's literally his job to enforce the law. You will note the law doesn't say unless he disagrees with them. No, it doesn't say that at all. So if he does not enforce this law, whether he disagrees with it or not, then he is not only in violation of that law, but he's in violation of Section 81 of the Kentucky Constitution. Now, here's the thing. If the governor and the universities can just ignore the law and there's no consequences, it's just going to encourage whenever somebody doesn't like a law, they might as well disobey it as well. It goes back to a biblical principle in Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and verse 11. Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, it is fully set in the hearts of the sons of men to do evil. And the Bible is, of course, quite correct on this. If there's not going to be any consequences for this, it's just going to encourage more law breaking, more evil. So we have here a chance where this might be a crisis of the law, or it could be an opportunity for the legislative branch to say, no, the law will be respected, and here are the consequences if it is not. The second big issue facing Kentucky right now is who's going to be replacing Mitch McConnell. If you were to look up Mitch McConnell in the dictionary, you would see the definition of the word rhino, Republican in name only, and probably with a cross-reference for the reason that there should be term limits. I'm Lee Watts, and I approve that message. So Mitch is leaving, thank the dear Lord. So the problem Kentucky is facing, or an opportunity, is are we going to replace him with mini Mitch? I just don't want Mitch McConnell version 2.0, a little miniature version of him. We need to get someone who is a true conservative. It's easy for everybody to say they are. We're going to be looking at the records. Now let's talk about the opportunity or the crisis Kentucky's facing. There are three main people who are the likely candidates for this. We have a current Congressman, Andy Barr, has officially entered this race. We have the former Attorney General and former governor candidate, Daniel Cameron, officially entered this race. There's a third person that's not officially entered it, but it sure looks like he's going to, and that's a Lexington businessman by the name of Nate Morris. So I would like to know where you stand, Kentucky conservatives. We have a great number of Kentucky conservatives who watch Patriot Point. So let's find out where all these guys stand. Put in the comments who you will be supporting and why. Now don't go on and on. Make it nice and short and simple. This is who I'm supporting and why. Now, you might have somebody else that you think would be a great candidate, and maybe they would be wonderful. I want everybody to keep this in mind. If you want to be a viable candidate, you need to be able to raise millions of dollars. I did my homework. The average Senate race cost more than $30 million. So if you want to be a candidate that actually legitimately has a chance, you better be able to raise at least half that. Should be able to raise at least $15 million. And if you can't, you're not going to be a viable candidate. So let's get some good people in there and let's see where Kentucky conservatives are leaning as of today. So this is a big crisis or opportunity to have a really good conservative replacing Mitch McConnell. The third big issue we're talking about this week is how Kentucky Fried Chicken is no longer Kentucky. That is correct. Kentucky Fried Chicken has announced it is leaving Kentucky, its headquarters, and relocating to Texas. So this is something that's been in Kentucky for 95 years. Why is Kentucky losing one of our literal signature businesses? Kentucky Fried Chicken is now going to be Texas Fried Chicken. They're not changing the name, but they're no longer here. The Kentucky State Legislature needs to have some very hard looks at Kentucky business laws and regulations on why this corporation is leaving Kentucky. Not only Kentucky Fried Chicken, but we've seen in the last year, just the last year, headquarters for Chevron, Tesla, Hewlett-Packard, all going to Texas, not Kentucky. We even have some of them leaving Kentucky. And we need to find out why. This could be either a crisis if we don't fix it or address it, or an opportunity to make Kentucky a more business-friendly state, to encourage industry, which is going to help with our employment and all kinds of other issues. So this could either be a crisis or a wonderful opportunity. Got to take a hard look at some business laws and make some great choices. So these are different issues facing Kentucky right now, how each could be a potential crisis or an opportunity for excellence. And of course, we hope all the best for Kentucky. I live here, want it all to be the best state in the entire union. It's like Daniel Boone said when he was first exploring Kentucky. He said, heaven must be a Kentucky kind of place. And let's do all we can to make it that way. So that's the news we have for this week. Until next week, Patriots, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point, reminding you that liberty is not a spectator sport.